Good morning, students, staff, faculty, and friends of UHD. My name is Jonathan Davis, and I serve as Dean of the Maryland Davies College of Business here in this building. It is my honor to welcome you to today's installment of the President's Lecture Series. This series provides our community with direct voices from industry leaders, innovators, and change makers on topics that shape our world. It reflects UHD's commitment to creating meaningful conversations that inspire. Today's program highlights 3 of our distinguished alumni who have built exceptional careers in the financial sector and are here to share their insights with us. To begin, it is my privilege to introduce the president of the University of Houston Downtown, Dr. Lauren J. Blanchard.
Thanks so much, and a special welcome to all of you joining us here today. Today's President's Lecture Series, as you well know, that we've been doing this since my arrival here is probably about the 40th one that we have actually done. But for this semester, it's the 3rd in our sequence. And each one, I continue to say, it just gets better and better. And I know that today will be the same with the topic on banking on success. And really highlighting 3 individuals, none of them that are strangers to the University of Houston Downtown. All 3 of them are alums, and I won't introduce them because I know that's the job of the facilitator that you're going to meet as well. I'm not supposed to mention her name either. Trying to withhold myself. But, bottom line is that I have to say some of these names, but John Hernandez of Amegy Bank is certainly no stranger to the banking world, but certainly none to UHD as well. We're very fortunate that he has been serving on the President's Advisory Council here at the University of Houston Downtown for many, many years. I have the great privilege of knowing him as a friend personally, and certainly for UHD as well, and we're thrilled that he's joining us today. Similarly, we have Ms. Andrea Shiloh, again, another person that's no stranger to us, largely because she has been very active with the Alumni Association, but also she knows how to keep the president connected and invites me oftentimes to different groups that she believes is important for this university to be friends with. And so really thrilled that she's here with us, and with the body of experiences that she's had over the years, I know that she's going to be a very active participant in today's discussion. The 3rd alum is my first time meeting her today, Genesis Loera. And her background is very interesting as well in terms of ROA 2 advisors, but she's had a lot of other experiences as well. She mentioned to me when I met her just a few minutes ago, which she's just a lovely person to get to know, that she wishes that she would have done more as a student, but she was balancing so many different things. And I know so many students here feel the same way, that you wish you could be more engaged, but you're balancing life at the same time. But I told her none to worry, it's never too late, and that we certainly have much that we can have her to do as an alum. By the way, I'll just say as well that Mr. Hernandez that's joining us today feels so comfortable here at UHC that he parked in my spot here in the building. And so I told him that would be $50 per hour. So I just want to say thank you all for being here today. Again, just a great pleasure to have our 3 alums here. And we talk about all the time about, what matters more with a degree, most with a degree, and that with the promise that once you obtain a degree, it's one that prepares you for the future, and that more importantly prepares you for either the work world or for graduate and professional school, but most importantly that the UHD degrees prepares you to be leaders in your communities and leaders in your fields. And that's who we have here today, and I'm excited to hear more about them. Facilitating that conversation, you're going to learn shortly who that is. She's no stranger to us as well, but I'm going to turn it back over now to Dean Davis.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Blanchard, for those words of inspiration and welcome. It is now my pleasure to introduce today's moderator, Dr. Candace M. Tenbrink, Associate Professor of Management in the Maryland Davies College of Business. Dr. Tenbrink is a Fulbright Scholar whose research explores corporate rejuvenation and innovation, with publications on strategic turnarounds, life cycle issues, and innovation. Beyond her academic work, she advises technology-based entrepreneurs and local firms on strategy, serves on multiple boards, and volunteers in the community. Prior to academia, Dr. ten Brink was the founder and managing partner of a film production firm in New York and has professional experience in supply chain management and investment banking in the semiconductor capital equipment industry. Dr. ten Brink earned a PhD from the University of Houston's Bauer College of Business, an MBA from the Ross School of Business at the University of Michigan, and a BA in supply chain management from Michigan State University. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Candace ten Brink.
It's on? Ooh, oh, wow. All right. So from that background, it looks like I have ADHD. Nothing wrong with that, right? Meandering around. All right. Thank you so much for coming. It feels weird to be sitting here with a panelist. Usually I'm standing up. All right, you ready? John Hernandez, right in the middle. Senior Vice President at Amegy Bank with 35 years in business development and community investment. Founding chair of Amegy's Hispanic Business Resource Group. He also serves on the UHD President's Leadership Council, and we just found out that he steals parking spots. John, thank you for coming. All right. Andrea Shiloh, who probably is my sister, we just found out. Yeah, okay. Former Senior VP of Treasury and Liquidity Services at Texas Capital Bank. Andrea has also served in leadership roles at Wells Fargo, Regions Bank, and Prosperity Bank. She is a community leader and current board member for the Premier America Foundation. Welcome, Andrea. Genesis Loera? Loera? Mm. You all got it? Loera. Better? Oh. You got it. Genesis, a certified financial planner with ROA2 advisors who advises small business owners and professionals. As the first in her family to graduate college, congratulations. Genesis self-funded her UHD education and now serves as a role model and mentor through her financial practice. Thank you so much. So we are pleased that you are all here. This is going to be a wonderful panel. I know it. I've done this several times, but honestly, I can tell that you're going to be the best. The three of you are going to be the best. I know it. The bar is very, very high, as the president knows. I'm serious. You guys, this is the A game here. All right. How did you break into banking and why? So let's start with Andrea. It's magically on.
It's on.
Hello. Okay. I want to project. Don't want to talk to this. Banking found me. It's the summer of, and I had been trying to play tennis and wasn't good at that, but I wore great clothes, and I hurt my back. And our family doctor happened to be the president of a small local bank in the 3rd Ward. And he asked me when I went to see him about my back if I was interested in working for him that summer. And I was like, okay. And that was the beginning of a love affair with banking. And why? There was so much to learn. Every human being that walked in that door was fair game. Hi, I'm Andrea Shiloh. Welcome to Riverside National Bank. And it was like this ever blooming opportunity for me. And then from there, it just continued to expand and evolve for me. So yeah, that's how it happened.
Thank you. John?
Do I need a mic? Okay, so I'm going to come back to tennis in just a second, but I'm going to start because my banking career got started related to tennis as well. I didn't know that for you. So does anyone know or familiar with AI or ChatGPT or any of those things? Okay, so I'm trying to be a late adapter, and I actually did a little bit of what makes great banking careers, what's important in banking and all, and I call it my writing coach. I checked with my writing coach, and that's what my coach gave me. And then I get here, and I see the people that I know at U of H downtown, and I look back and think and reflect what I was reflecting on preparing for today. And Dr. Blanchard, Dean Davis, Liza Alonso, and all the U of H crowd exemplify what banking is all about. It's about caring and engaged professionals. Your career, your education, what you do, what you're doing now is mentored, fostered, nourished, developed by caring people. And I've seen these folks in action. I've seen Dr. Blanchard in many social and business and professional settings. I've seen Liza in many leadership roles. I've seen what around the community. I've seen what Dean Davis is doing here at this beautiful campus. So it's really that simple. And I'll weave that theme through as we go forward. It's caring and engaged professionals. And ultimately, that's, as bankers, financial advisors, that's what we are, is engaged professionals in people's business, whether it's small, medium, large, corporate, whatever it may look like. Okay, how did this get started? April 1981. I'm a senior in high school. I work half a day, or I go to school half a day and play racquetball and tennis in the afternoons. Grew up in Lake Jackson, Texas, the home of Buc-ee's and Selena, and people know Lake Jackson. There was a little racket club there. The president of a bank used to play racquetball at noon, a guy by the name of Jim Meadows. 44 years ago, he asked me, hey, so what are you going to do when you graduate in May? I said, hell, I don't know. I'm going to go to school, continue education, work, get a job. He said, call this guy. He gives me a number of the executive vice president of the bank to call Skipper Fuller, Robert Skipper Fuller, and I call him and go interview with him. And I got hired and started a banking career in May of 1981. And to this day, 44 years later, Jim Meadows is still a friend, a mentor. He's bought and sold many banks, made a bunch of money. Important role all around tennis and racquetball. That's how I got started.
Learn to play tennis.
Thank you, John. Yeah.
And so for me, was actually my sophomore year in college. I was working in a cell phone store, Wireless Toys. I still remember, probably not the best name, right? Because it could be kind of confusing, but it's a cell phone store, okay? And working full time. And at that time, I remember thinking, well, my degree I'm studying is finance. What I'm doing work-wise is not really, a match into that degree. So someone had told me about these career fairs that colleges do. And so that's exactly what I did. I attended my very first career fair and, walked around the whole room and went and visited all of the banks, all of the companies that were in finance, and just shared my information, shared my resume. And one of those reached out. It was a local community bank. And that's how I started my very first job as a teller. And that's exactly what I wanted to do because it had the flexibility. I was in school full time at that time. I needed something part-time, but kind of like a leg in the, a foot in the door, if you will. And so that was my first real professional job, my first real, got to dress up and look nice every day. And I learned a lot in that position as a teller. I got to help people with money, see really the inside works of the financial industry. So I'm really grateful for that opportunity.
Thank you. And I want to share that a lot of our students start out as tellers too in our undergrad program, and they have aspirations of moving up. I think that all of your stories are good and relatable. I got my break into investment banking by going to a school where investment banks recruited. So no tennis. I have no skills. Like, have you ever heard of jack of all trades, master of none? Yeah, and my tennis is pretty sloppy. Yeah.
Some people in this business think golf is important.
Oh.
I don't have to be one of those people, but a lot of people do.
Now that's okay. That's a story for another day. Just so you know, President Blanchard, I won an award golfing, to be honest. I did. I won an award for, I actually won a real one. It was supposed to be a joke. Hit the most trees. Yeah, for real. All right, back to you all. This is going to be a sort of changing the topic a little bit. How do you think AI and fintech are changing the way consumers interact with you all? And what do you think the obstacles and opportunities are for the future?
I'll jump on that. So I had the pleasure last summer of attending a conference in Toronto, Canada, and we talked a great deal about AI and the perils of it and the joys of it. Fintech is helping banks to, certainly credit unions, I'm affiliated with a credit union, to do a better job of meeting the needs of their members. And what do I mean by that? Well, it's not just, oh, I need to make a deposit and I want to use mobile deposit. No, it's, I need a loan. I need that loan sooner than later because I can go to that other bank down the street that John works for, and I can likely get it really quickly. So fintech has been really beneficial in that regard, in what we call speed to market, making sure that those funds that member needs, that customer needs, are available to them more readily. Also, I learned something about the perils of AI. I was not aware that there are bad actors using AI to go on LinkedIn and get jobs. They're not even real people, but they have real jobs. And so it's great in many instances. It's helping us to help customers to do all of their banking without ever coming into a banking center or a branch. And we all know, because we see them sort of disappearing all over town, that brick and mortar is not the way of the future. Banks are not going to disappear, but they will just look different. They will be places where you can be served in a new way to facilitate those transactions. And just by the way, I want to make sure I let everybody know, AI is never going to replace you, or you. And I won't hog it. I'm gonna let John talk and Genesis.
100% agree. I think the one thing AI can never replace is relationships. And I really think, quite frankly, the way and the speed at which AI is kind of taking over a lot of things, that the pendulum is going to swing back the other way at some point. And what used to be old school things, a handshake, a phone call, right? A thank you note, handwritten thank you note. Those are going to be the things that stand out. And I know this because when I sit down with people and I sit down with clients and I sit down with industry leaders, right? There's an overwhelm of information, almost too much information. And I think that leads to indecision. And so that indecision can sometimes be worse than making a bad decision, because if you make a bad decision, at least you learn from it, right? Pick yourself back up. What's the lesson learned? And move on to, okay, what was the right choice that I should have made? With indecision, you're just kind of in a stuck limbo mode. You don't go one way or the other. And so I find myself having to, push my clients and push people to engage in real conversations with real people, human to human, because that is how you make progress. That is how you move the needle forward.
Good points. I see AI and technology and fintech as an opportunity for young students to understand the dynamics of technology and its impact and the speed at which it is rapidly changing things. In the banking business, banks make money and lose money on loans, essentially, and we make money on margins, the spread between what we take in deposits and loan money out. A few years back, most of the industry, including our own bank, we lost more money to cyber fraud and fraudulent business than we did loan losses. Technology can sink a bank as quickly as bad loans can, or a bad economy or interest rate swings or a variety of factors. But I think it's tools that we will utilize and industries will utilize. But as it relates to the School of Business here, I've been in a number of conversations with accounting firms who are going to Mexico and Colombia and other places where they can nearshore folks to do financial analysis, that, for example, or accounting work that we've done in-house here. It also brings kind of the international aspect to it. Of is for a number of years we used to have financial spreads done in India by a warehouse of professionally educated English-speaking financial analysts, and they could do them faster than our own bankers could do it. So the technology and the kind of globalization of impact and learning creates so much opportunity for students here around accounting, around cyber tech, around understanding the bad guys and the criminals. But we're not stopping AI or technology or fintech. It's here, it's coming, it's accelerating, it's going to continue to be a bigger part of life. But I agree with what Genesis said about it doesn't replace the human relationship, and I don't think it will in time until maybe we're on Mars and I'm long gone, and I'm not thinking about that as much anymore. Yeah.
And I think we're going to talk about different types of roles in banks that these students might be interested in. But what I took away from that conference last summer was that, one, financial institutions are going to be spending not millions, but billions of dollars, billions, on cybersecurity. And so that is something that didn't even exist when I began my banking career. So that's yet another opportunity, if you will, another avenue for you to pursue. The traditional banking relationships, absolutely, those will have to remain in place. I want to talk to Genesis. And I'd love to go to the mailbox and get a nice little note from Genesis. But cybersecurity, the billions of dollars that are going to be spent, there's going to be people who are going to be required to manage all of that and to be engaged with one another around that.
On that note, everything that they're talking about from a Houston perspective is also true across the United States, right? From the giant mega firms in New York City and Boston all the way to Houston. And the industry is really grappling with a lot of change. And thank you for talking about all that. How has the financial services industry changed in Houston since you started? I think for some of you, you've probably seen some evolutions and maybe some shifts.
When I started in banking in Houston, Texas was like the Lone Ranger of banking. What does that mean? It means that we didn't have branch banking like we do today. You went to a bank, one location, and that's where you did your business. There were no ATMs. Can you imagine your life without an ATM? And I was even astounded. I was actually researching all of the changes that have taken place during the 40 plus years since I started my career. And it's astounding. And we were late to the party in a lot of ways, but we were also very, very careful, tipping into the 80s and 90s of web-based services and online and that type of access to accounts and services at a bank. So that's a big one that I remember. And I remember being able to be the only person who's raised her hand, and always raise your hand. It's an opportunity, not a burden. When I was asked, would you like to be the person in charge of the ATM? What I didn't know at the time was that I was going to get the pager beeping like mad on my hip on Christmas Day. And that was always fun.
Right,
so
I'm going to follow that up.
Jump on there.
I'm going to follow that up in a couple of real life ways. So in 1993, the law to allow branch banking in Texas was passed. I had the privilege and honor of opening up the first branch bank for Texas Commerce Bank in Denver Harbor in 5th Ward at the corner of Lyons and Lockwood in April of 1994. The branch itself was one of the busiest in the nation. Our chairman, CEO at the time was Mark Shapiro. Mark Shapiro used to ask me, "Hey, how's the branch doing? How's the ATM doing?" We were thinking, or the thought was that Black and Hispanic customers weren't profitable or weren't going to be users of the branch, et cetera. And I said, Mark, the best thing I can tell you is that we have a 4-spot oil stain lineup behind the ATM. He said, what does that mean? I said, there's always a line 24/7. Cars are in line waiting to use the ATM because there were no ATMs in the area. We put in a second ATM. The 2 ATMs turned out being Texas Commerce and Chase Bank of Texas's busiest ATMs in the nation. So there's opportunity there. To answer the question about where banking has changed in my 40 plus years of being in banking, I think it mirrors our city and the demographic changes. We talk about us being the most demographic diverse city in the country. Someone in Arlington the other day at a conference tried to convince me Arlington was. I said, Mayor, you have no idea what you're talking about. So I didn't want to argue with him. But I say that to say, because I've had a chance to see a lot of things on the banking, lending, credit side, immigrants from Mexico, Central, South America, Africa, Asia have come in and created economies within economies. Some of the largest food and meat in the Hispanic space, meat distribution and retail outlets are some of the largest in the nation. Some of the companies, and we have the privilege of doing business with them. Many of the convenience stores and co-branded gas stations that you see are owned by the Indian community, or owned and ran and managed, and are extremely successful. So we do business with folks who own the most number of Popeyes, the most number of Wendy's and Exxon's and Shell co-branded gas stations. So the diversity of Houston's economy, we talk about food scene and we talk about things that are important as our city, but that's driven business. That's created economy. It's created jobs. It's created entrepreneurship. And for Genesis' sake, I'm going to talk about the wealth that's created for her to manage. We've created a significant amount of wealth in this community because of the diversity of our economy, and that's going to continue.
Yes, I agree. And on that note with entrepreneurship, I'd say that's probably one of the things. So a little background, I probably spent maybe 2.5 years in banking. And this was during the 08-09 financial crisis. So I actually remember the little boards they used to have with the little numbers with the interest rates and all the deposits and the CDs. And then every week somebody would go up and change the number. And then next week, okay, that number changed again. And then the numbers just kept dropping and dropping and dropping. So anyway, the timing of it all, it was a timing of uncertainty. So a lot of people had a lot of questions. A lot of people had doubts. A lot of people wanted to know if they were going to be okay. And so eventually I made the transition from banking to, okay, now I'm going to go out and kind of do my own thing here in financial advising world. And it was difficult for me because I was a college student at that time. So everyone I knew was a broke college student like me, right? So I had to go out, network, meet people, get uncomfortable, talk to strangers, spark up conversations to start opening those doors. And so that was 2010. And I would say one of the things that, kind of looking back now, is a lot of people decided during that time that they wanted to go more like the entrepreneurship route. And so I did kind of feel in the last 10 years that there's been a real kind of trend in that people want to do things for themselves. But then that also means, well, now I need a banker relationship. Now I need a CPA. Now I need a financial advisor, right? All these things kind of intersect. And we got to do a good job in all of those areas to be successful at what it is, we're doing business-wise. So I think for Houston, that just me personally, from the track that I chose to follow, that's been something I've witnessed, is this growth in the idea of I want to do my own thing. I want to have a business and everything that goes with that. It's been really neat to see.
Excellent. Thank you.
If I might add, and Houston has been increasingly friendly to women business owners, in particular, women of color. And I think you just spoke to that so beautifully. when the pandemic was raging and people were staying at home, women were falling out of the workplace but into their own businesses, and that continues. I attend many of the WBEA and different organizations that support women business owners, and Houston is a really great place if you're a woman and you want to start a business.
Thank you. What misconceptions do students often have about careers in banking and finance? I always like to tell my students that I worked 80 hours a week. During earnings, I slept under my desk. True story. That didn't really, that does not resonate with students today, so I just stopped telling that story.
I'll start with that. The perception of banker's hours and playing golf, it is a lot more difficult than it sounds, and especially with technology and the role of mobile devices and being connected constantly. You're really kind of never off. We struggle to take vacations these days in our business because you're not off. To totally unplug, you have to go on FMLA almost to be totally off the grid. As recently as 3 months ago, there was a couple of stories in the Wall Street Journal about investment bankers in New York working 120-hour weeks and dying at their desk, literally, in a couple of in the investment banking world. So the misperception of it's an easy life or extremely robust financial. There's a difference between kind of a Wall Street investment banker, a commercial banker, a community banker, and not one size fits all. And I think people tend to evolve into where's a fit for them. If they're a business or commercial or analytical, they tend to kind of fall into place, is what I've seen in my 40 plus years of careers. And it's different, and people cross over, if that makes any sense, cross from different industries. Like, for example, we have a credit training program that teaches bankers the basic analytical financial skills. And kind of once you get that foundation, you can do real estate lender, oil and gas lending, or you can even go the investment route. We've lost more bankers to private equity firms and investment banking firms of late just because of technology and industry changes.
Thank you. Next.
It's about evolving. When I started in banking, I transitioned from that summer job into a teller role. And the gentleman who founded Amegy Bank, Walter Johnson, I worked for Walter Johnson very early in my career. And he saw that a group of us women had the potential to create a new platform in our bank, and that was around selling. And selling is not a bad word. Over the course of those 4+ decades, I accepted many opportunities that looked like challenges. I also believe firmly that we are ever evolving. So teller, new accounts, moved into treasury and liquidity services. My time there gave me the opportunity to see how all the pieces work together. If Chuck made a loan to his customer, then we also wanted to make sure that that relationship was robust and included treasury services. We wanted to make sure that we were capturing their deposits, their receivables, and so we would set up a service tangential to that. And then I had the opportunity to move into lending. I always said I wouldn't be a lender, but when the opportunity presented itself, I was ready to evolve. So it's going to be you're going to be evolving and moving across, up, out, and over, perhaps, but always be open to that evolution in yourself.
So for me as a teller, transitioned also eventually to like more of a personal banker role. and then also a lending role. So I got to see a little bit of that side. But I can tell you that one of the things I didn't like about working in a bank, cover your ears, at that time, it was a standard 9 to 5. You get your 1 hour lunch break. And it just didn't sit well with me that if, I'm here exceeding my numbers, making everyone else, look like they're not working, and I'm hitting all the numbers, hitting all the quotas. If I come back a minute late from lunch, it's a little write-up, right? A little note in your record. And so eventually I kind of also did the math. I was wrapping up my finance degree, and I said, okay, once I graduate, I have this degree, like where else am I going to scale up? It was a small credit union, 3 branches at that time. And the answer was really you'd become a branch manager once a branch manager decided to retire. And so I said, no way, that's just not, that's not what I want to do. And that's when I made that decision. Like, I need to look outside, still in finance, but do something where the environment is not so rigid. I'm working 9 to 5. Now, to my naive, right, I'm like 22 at the time. One of the misconceptions that I had about entering the financial services, financial advisory field is that I'd have a line of clients out my door, right? And that was absolutely not the case. Because in my head, I thought, of course, everybody needs this. Everybody needs to do planning. Everyone needs to plan ahead, plan for their kids, plan for their family. But that wasn't the reality. So it's a little bit of a dual-edged sword there, because I probably spent more time, right? And I brought a lot of that work, a lot of that concern and an easiness back home with me. Whereas if I just had a straight 9 to 5, it's just 9 to 5. So you got to weigh. I think it really depends on the track that you're trying to follow.
Dean Davis, I'm not waiting for you to retire. I like my job. How did your time at UHD or college in general prepare you for your career? And was there any specific items that you wanted to share, like courses that you were super excited about that were super valuable to you, or mentoring or networking, and you get bonus points if it is about UHD?
For me, UHD, it was just such a great setup because of the flexibility. I did the hybrid career path. So I'd come, after work, I think it was like from 8 to 10 o'clock, and the rest of the time was online. So it worked for me from a schedule standpoint. Class-wise, I'd say definitely on the investment. I think it was called Investment Fundamentals. And in that class, it really opened up my eyes to this whole other track in finance that I was never previously exposed to, right? Candace mentioned that I was the first in my family to graduate. So my parents knew nothing about money and putting money to work and having the money work. Like, what is that? How do you do that? They were trying to figure out how to make ends meet and support a family of 5. So to me, that class was kind of like, wait a minute, you're telling me that there's people out there that put their money away and have the money work for them so that later they can retire or enjoy taking time off? Like, the concept, like, I just didn't grasp it. And so I think in studying, the finance track, that one really appealed to me, because it's like more people need to know about this. More people need to be educated on, how do you treat a paycheck? How do you pay yourself first? Some of these concepts, even today, still, people are unclear on how to approach it. So that's how my track kind of started there.
Wonderful. She gets 5 points for that. John?
Okay, so I worked through school and worked since I went to North Texas and Denton and transferred to the University of Houston downtown when my friend Jim Meadows bought Citizens National Bank off Little York on the toll road. And I used to commute here at night when all we had were nasty parking spots on gravel under the bridge here on campus. So to all of the folks that it was a sketchy, dangerous place, but by God, I was chugging and determined to come to make it in time to make school, to grab my tea, to get something to drink, and it was not easy. And I was not a good student. I'll be the first to admit, because kind of like what she said about careers in banking and stuff. We didn't have this path that we were going to go get education and stuff. We were going to work. All of our family worked all through our life. I've since had brothers and sisters who have finished college as well and all, but over time. But persistence and determination is what I would say that I got out of U of H downtown, because I took Stat 2 3 times. I failed it twice. And I love to joke with people with Amegy, particularly young students who are straight A's. I said, we have this theme where we're the A bank. And they'll look at me and say, yeah. And I said, what was your GPA? I said, and they'll say, I don't know, 3.8. And I said, mine was a 2.4. So I was a C student, and I still work for the A bank. So persistence and determination. Okay. And then the last thing I'll say is kind of what did U of H downtown do that motivated me? I would come and walk in the parking lot stairwell case and see the lights of the towers downtown and say, I'm going to work there. I'm going to work there. And the most visible one at the time was Texas Commerce Tower, now Chase Tower. And by God, I went to work there and worked there 11 years. So it was my motivation to get me through school.
That's beautiful, John. And thank you for the setup. I think we're working real well here together. I had attended college right after high school across town at the other UH. And boy, did I have a good time. Yeah, didn't work out well. But I was working, and I thought, I work in the bank. I get to dress up, and I'm super important, meeting people, that's going to work out. No, I could not get that next job, right? The one that I needed to have the degree to even walk in the door to be considered. So someone suggested, hey, go to UHD. I was like, oh, cool. Now, I knew nothing about UHD except that it was here, and that then, mistakenly, I thought it was part of, some sort of systems, just a satellite school. So glad that it wasn't a satellite. And so I came to UHD with college credits. My mother attended college. My grandparents had attended college. And so I was, I was teed up to go to college and be successful, but it was my own, I undid myself. But when I got here, the professors cared about me. They knew my name. My advisor, Dr. William Brigman, God rest his soul, was so instrumental in my being I was on the dean's list, y'all. I was on a list at that other place, but it wasn't the dean's. And I developed a sense of pride that I didn't have before. I developed a sense that I could, that it was available to me, whatever it was. That's what I got at UHD. I had a professor come to me one time, and she was working on something where they were going to give awards to students for certain things. And I was like, oh, you're asking me? Wow. Dr. Kumar, that was her name, Lena Kumar. It's just a phenomenal place. And I got to come here every night and eat Taco Bell and those tiny pizzas. I lived on that for 2 years and a summer. And I graduated, and I am proud to say that I am an alum of this university. I am proud every day to wave the UHD flag.
I'm going to have to just call that a three-way tie. That was beautiful, y'all. I almost feel like getting another degree here. That was great. All right. Okay, I'm going to switch a little bit and talk a little about networking and advancement. What advice would you give students for making the most of internships and early career opportunities?
I'll take that. Ask early and often and be persistent. You've got to ask an employer, a professional, connected person, do y'all hire? When do y'all hire? When do y'all start? You've got to be assertive. You've got to take your own initiative, because ultimately you'll hear through human resources and personal development, you're responsible for your own personal development. If you're waiting for someone else to do it, unless you have helicopter parents or a real loving spouse or partner or someone that does it for you, you got to do it yourself. So ask early and often. What was the other piece about networking? We talk about ABCs, right? What does ABC stand for? American Born Chinese. No. Always be closing. I know. I modify it for my training to always be connecting. If you're not connecting with people, that's my ABCs. Always be closing too. That's good. But always be connecting. You need to be connecting with your colleagues, strangers, people that you have things in common, people you don't know, academic people, business people, community people. You need to always be connecting if you're going to be in banking, which is a people business. The profile of your client or who you interact with may be different. If you go into corporate finance, your contact may be the CFO only. If you go in small to business, medium-sized business, it may be the controller and maybe another accounting manager. If you go into community banking or small business lending, the contact may be the family owner, the business owner. So it's different. It's all relevant. How you interact and connect with those people and develop that relationship is a continuous journey, a continuous process. And when you talk about centers of influence and referrals, introductions, and connections, and how do you grow your book of business, or how do you support your treasury management partner, whoever you may be working with, it's through those relationships that you develop. And we're challenged today because of devices. Handwritten notes and text messages are two different things. And think about yourself and what you like to receive.
I want to jump in and say something, because just a sort of macro level. What John said is so true in every subdivision of banking, whether it's investment banking, treasury, high net worth client advising, whatever it is. And I think the only job I can think of that is not true, always be communicating, connecting, is if you're a quant jock. You know, you have a PhD in quantitative analysis and you're sitting in a room with 5 screens, you know? Yeah. Other than that, it's so imperative globally. Houston, doesn't matter where you are. Great. Beautiful. Who wants to go next?
I love that. Always be connecting. I'm going to steal that. That sounds better than always be closing. But always be closing is good too. Nothing wrong with that.
American Born Chinese is good. Nothing wrong with that. As global as the world we're in, I mean, really.
Yeah, I think there's a question in the itinerary about, like, if I could go back and redo something, that's exactly what it would be, is to spend more time on building my network. And I didn't realize how important that was. I didn't realize how important it was to be involved in other groups, activities in school, and connect with other people. I had my head down. I'm trying to build something from scratch here and try to finish my degree. And so it just didn't, register how important that was until years later. I actually want to call someone out in the audience, because I think this is a perfect segue. So I'm at the Houston Bankers Club event last Tuesday or Wednesday. And I'm walking out and there's a gentleman waiting to ask me a question about how was the event. And he reached out to me because he is a UHD student in finance. He had no idea that I'm from UHD or anything. He just knew she was at this event for bankers. Okay. And he had the guts to come up and ask me a question. Hey, what do you do? Are you hiring? Do you have internships? Right. And I said, you know what? Let's connect. We connected via LinkedIn. He sent me a message. I told him about this speaking engagement, and he's sitting right here. His name is Marcos. So
Hey, that's fantastic.
it's things like that. Getting involved in networking events, right? This Houston Bankers Club is open to anyone. So why don't we see more students there asking questions and talking to the leaders? That's, I think, and especially in Houston, there's so many. I mean, that's just one. You know, there's a Houston Finance Association. There's all kinds of groups. If you really just take the time to look for them, you will find them.
And there are tons of organizations in this city that are not related necessarily to banking and finance, but I'm going to pitch volunteerism. You know where I'm going, don't you, Dr. Blanchard? How many of you have ever volunteered for anything? Yes. Volunteering, connecting, talking to strangers, the person next to you loading up a bag of groceries for someone in the community. Spend time talking to them, getting to know them. You're building your network. You never know who is right there next to you. I'm on the Premier America Foundation board because my hairdresser's niece is the Texas market manager for Premier America Credit Union. And there was a conversation. They were looking to expand the board for the foundation. Oh, by the way, I know someone you might want to talk to. Premier America Credit Union is one of the largest. It's $3.5 billion. And the foundation, right here in Houston, supports the Houston Food Bank. And we volunteer there. I volunteered there since it was on Jensen Drive. Remember that? Volunteering. It's connecting. And it's good connection. Thank you for listening.
Can I add two things to this real quick? People around my office, the company I work for, Amegy Bank, say, God, he knows everybody. Go ask Hernandez. He knows everybody. And they ask me, how do you know everybody? And so I had to think about that for a little while. I came here in 1986 to work for Jim Meadows, the gentleman I mentioned who hired me back in 1981. He'd bought a bank off of Citizens National Bank off of Little York. It's now Prosperity Bank. Anyway, I knew 4 people in town, 5. I knew Jim and his wife Marcia and son Rich, who are a little boy who I've known all my life since he was born. I knew my brother and sister-in-law and niece who I lived with in Missouri City. So I'm commuting from Missouri City to Little York in the toll road. And I knew 5 or 6 people in Houston, literally. Today, and I'm not bragging about this, it's just fact, I have over 16,000 contacts in my directory. I don't know everybody. Some people have put them in there, but I literally can go and identify with those people, email addresses, phone numbers, text, etc. I was talking to a couple of young bankers, which I do throughout the year, and we're talking about just career development and connecting and all. And it was a guy, a young lady, a young man, and we're talking a little bit about iPhones and addresses and texting and stuff. And I said, do you have a mailing list or a database or a contact list? No. Why? I said, you don't have your own Rolodex? And they looked at me like, what's a Rolodex? So that is aging some of us, but they don't know that. So the president of the bank, Dave Stevenson, has his original Rolodex he started 40 years ago in banking in his credenza to show young bankers, go build a Rolodex, and he shows them his Rolodex. You may do it on your iPhone or what it used to be called.
BlackBerry?
I had a BlackBerry, yeah, but no, those Palm Pilots.
Palm Pilot.
Palm Pilots, whatever it may be, yes. Yes. So start building your database of connections. And a little technical point of view, if you work for a company that provides you a phone, have your own directory in your own phone. One of the things that's changed in banking dramatically over the last couple of years with technology, used to bankers moved from bank to bank because they bought their clients with them, they bought their lists, they bought their files, they bought their information. If I go to Amegy and say I'm leaving the bank today, I will be off the grid and have no access to my contact list by 5 o'clock today. So you need your own proprietary personal database that you start building forever.
I think everybody up here, though, will attest to the power of being comfortable talking to strangers. Every customer that I ever had was a stranger to me before I became their trusted advisor. Get comfortable with talking to strangers. Hey, Yesenia. You never know. I've standing in the grocery store. I'm a dangerous person, I admit it. Okay, I'm that person. But talking to strangers, and going to school at night, right? Building a portfolio. John, talking to 16,000 people. I don't know how you had the breath in you. Talk to strangers. Get to know them.
I've known these three for, 55 minutes. And one thing that seems to ring true is that they are communicating and growing with individuals in a relationship way. I think a lot of times it's hard to think beyond the transaction. Oh, I want a job. What can you do for me, John? You all are so warm and authentic, and I think that's a huge takeaway, especially for students looking for a job. It's not always transactional, but try to be helpful and engage with others, and that will last you a lifetime. Okay, I would think we have time for one more quick one, and then we're going to open it up for Q&A. If you could go back and give your 20-year-old college self, that might not apply to everyone up here, go back, what would be that one piece of advice that you would give yourself that may have made your life different or easier?
Mine would be do your homework, study, spend more time in the books. It just take more accounting classes.
Mine would be don't worry so much. It's going to be all right.
I like that one. Yeah, I think I touched on it earlier. For me, it was definitely the piece about building the relationships. I think I really got that way later on, in retrospect. If I would have done things differently, I would have been more involved. I'd seek out mentors. Today I have mentors, but during the time that I was banging my head against the wall and trying to quit every other day, I didn't have someone by my side. And, unfortunately, I also learned that because of our upbringing and the lack of financial literacy in my house, I couldn't really go to mom and dad for business advice or financial advice. So I didn't have people in my circle that I could go back to and ask those questions. Hey, I'm stuck here. Am I looking at this the right way? What's your perspective on this? How should I pivot from here? I'm stuck. And so if I had that earlier on, I think things would be different. But at the same time, you also learn, right? That's one big piece at least in my world, that I was very fearful of failure. I was very fearful of going into this career. And, when I gave the news to my mom and dad about I'm quitting my very secure banking job to go and have a zero salary, right? They literally looked at me like I was crazy. They said, "What are you doing? You just burned your eyelashes off these last 4 years in studying in your books and doing all this, and now you're going to go work for somebody that's not going to pay you." They didn't get that. And so there was a lot of clash, a lot of challenge with that in the house. But now looking back, I wish if I would have had someone guiding me saying, hey, even if you fail, right, that was my fear, that mom and dad would be right, that I couldn't do it. And so I think that's what kept me in the game so long, is, wanting to prove to myself, no, I did the homework, I did the studying, I got the A's, like I have something of value to give people. So the earlier on that what is your value and what is it that you contribute to making someone better, the quicker, the more launch, right, that you're going to take. That's my opinion on that.
I was going to open it up for Q&A, but the person that was supposed to remind me of the time has not done jumping jacks yet. Thank you. Oh, you want me? Oh, okay. So look at this. We have a microphone up there. We are officially opening it up for Q&A. I did see the jumping jacks. Anyone? Oh. Okay. Here we go. Do you want here?
Here's a microphone
Yeah.
for you.
Okay, so my question is, what is your favorite thing about the banking industry, or what is that thing that kept you going back to make this a career?
I love the advancements. I started my banking career in 1976. Between 1976 and 2025, imagine all the technological advances, the jobs that came and went, that didn't exist then, that do exist now. All of that was fascinating to me and still is. And it keeps me engaged. It kept me coming back. There was always something new to learn. I am that person who is a lifelong learner. That's what it was.
How y'all doing? My name is Santos Aguilera. I am a junior here at UHD, currently going finance track. My question for you guys today is, I know you guys were talking about like evolving your career path and everything like that, but as someone trying to find an internship or even something within the banking world, I've talked to some of my own mentors. They're like, find your niche, find this and that, but you guys think evolving or like find that track and follow it. Would it be better to do one thing or the other, or just go about it both ways and kind of like, be just open-minded about everything you can learn within the banking world, if that makes sense? I don't know.
Well, I'll take a stab at that. One, you can't learn too much. I think of myself as a generalist as opposed to a specialist. So if you're just going to be finance, there used to be this kind of discussion about accounting versus finance majors. Accounting people had no personality. They like numbers more than finance people. But finance people had salespeople. I don't know whoever made that up or told me that, but it stuck, and I still use it. So what your niche might be, an industry or a sector. If you come from a family of family-owned businesses, maybe you do banking and finance because ultimately your family would love to see you take over the company, or just it's kind of where you feel comfortable. If you have language skills, if you have Spanish language skills, for example, that creates a niche opportunity for you in half the market in the greater Houston area. So generalists, all the skills you can develop, but you'll find, I'm a firm believer that you'll find your lane after you get your foundational education and some training or an internship or a training program at a financial institution.
So a lot of what you talked about really puts me in the mindset of personality traits, especially as you continue to say that, just how extroverted essentially that you've got to be. That, the knowledge and skills matter a whole lot in terms of what you're learning here at UHD. But equal to that is the relationship building. I think of you, Andrea, just by virtue of the example that you gave. Going to as many strangers as possible. Don't be shy, even in the grocery store. Although I'd be giving you the side eye, but the reality is that just connecting, and because you never know what's there, right? John, you're everywhere, and not only are you everywhere, you are the connector. If you want to know anything or to get to know somebody, go to John. He can make that happen. My first time just meeting you today, Genesis, felt the warmth immediately, felt the engagement immediately. What about the students that are introverted and don't necessarily feel as comfortable in that relationship space? How do you advise those students in this field?
I'm going to blow your minds. Are you ready? I am fundamentally an introvert.
Same.
I draw energy from quiet time, Andrea time. Banking trained me within an inch of my life, and I learned to be comfortable in that space, but always taking care of myself, stepping back, deciding, oh, no, I'm not going to go to that networking event or that event. Sometimes you got to say no. But I am fundamentally an introvert. But I operate really well in both the introvert and extroverted mindset, if you will.
Sometimes half the battle is just showing up. And early in my career, I learned, I don't know if I read that or someone told that to me, but the advice was just show up. Don't worry about what happens next. And so to this day, when I'm looking at how my calendar is laid out, right, and I'm trying to think, oh my God, do I want to go to this thing? It's at 6 o'clock from 6 to 9. This bankers event thing was from 6 to 9. I'm like 9 months pregnant and I had to wear my heels and, but I showed up. And I got the opportunity to meet this lovely gentleman, Marcos. Right. So that's, I think, half the battle sometimes. So for introverts, if you can just set everything else aside and just think, well, my only job today is to be there, is to show up, then I can promise you'll get some good results from that. Be consistent.
So who would guess that most stand-up comedians are introverts? It's a characteristic. Robin Williams was an introvert. So there's learned behaviors, but I'm going to guess, don't quote me, but 65 to 75% of banking positions in financial services are non-customer facing. The relationship managers, the salespeople, what we call customer facing is the 20-25%, the producers, the sales and marketing people. There's so much career opportunity in technology, in regulatory compliance, in just things that have to support all the various functions of a financial institution. So if you're not naturally an extrovert, there's plenty of roles in financial services for introverts or quiet or more shy people. Don't let that limit your possibilities.
And those roles are expanding. When you talk about regulatory and compliance, that's shifting even as we sit here speaking. And those positions are becoming very lucrative financially because it's evolving. So.
Okay. 2 more questions or any other questions? There's one. Oh, thank goodness. I was going to start cold calling.
From a banking perspective, how do you look at an entrepreneur or a small business and decide that they're worth your time working with them and building relationships with them, especially if they're struggling?
That's about the time when you want to come in and talk to that person. In 2008, I went from being someone who was out working hard to build a portfolio, bring in new customers, to what we called a workout person. Does that sound familiar at all? Okay, so what you do in loan workout is you sit down with a customer whose financial situation has changed and is no longer as positive as it was when they came to you. Well, as I said earlier, lots of people started businesses during the pandemic. That was a tough time. But you learn so much when times get tough. It's great when it's great, right? Money's flowing in, new customers, new clients, all good. But you learn so much about yourself as a person, as a business owner, right? As a human being when things get tough. And as a lender, I took great pleasure in sitting down and having those tough conversations. One of my former customers from Wells Fargo, where I worked for 6.5 years, sold his business here in the last 12 months. He and I have remained connected all of this time. And we talk, in fact, we just talked the other day on the weekend. And he said, I remember when you said to me, I only like surprises on my birthday. So tell me first when something's going wrong. But we worked through that. He came to me, he said, we're going to show a loss, but we have a plan to come back. Does that answer your question?
I'll add real quick. So she's talking workout. We call it the credit hospital, but there's plenty of patients in the credit hospital. But as far as working with entrepreneurs, many entrepreneurs struggle. Many entrepreneurs that become billionaires struggled. Henry Ford filed bankruptcy numerous times. I could give you a whole bunch of examples of people that struggled. What I look for and what we look for collectively is persistence and determination to succeed. Banks are regulated institutions. We can't make every wish and dream loan, every loan we'd like to, but we have a bunch of partners in the community. And as a banker and as a trusted resource advisor, we should be the ones that could connect you to those other alternative lending sources and partners and higher risk capital and private equity and different sources of capital. So don't get discouraged. Stay determined. I'm glad to connect and help you if I can be a resource.
Dean Davis, you have the microphone. Do you have a question, or are you going to bless us with karaoke?
I was thinking about karaoke, but I'm not sure. No, I think it's time for us to wrap this up. I really want to thank everyone for participating. Thank you to our panelists, first and foremost. Thank you for sharing your experiences and wisdom. Thank you to our students, staff, faculty, guests here for being part of this conversation. This is the heart of the President's Lecture Series. This is the opportunity for us to connect our students with these leaders in industry and our wider community. They'll inspire us, help us strive for excellence, and equip our students to pursue success with purpose and with confidence. And enrich our communities and the lives of everyone in it. We look forward to continuing these conversations and to witnessing the impact that all of you will make in our communities as you become leaders in your fields. Have a wonderful afternoon, and thank you again for joining us.